Hey folks, Tim Miller here, and I have my good friend Matt Pasqualini with me. Matt's a true life action hero because he doesn't brag on himself, but Matt's really been one of those guys that's been there, done that. When it comes to all things martial arts, I think Matt, you said you started training at 18 months.
Yeah,
Is that
somewhere
about
within
right?
within a range. Yeah,
Hey, but the reason I wanted to jump on and talk to you all, and I know this will be, kind of all over everywhere, hopefully, is we're seeing, you saw the video I put out regarding kind of the world situation. Is America in trouble? Obviously, America is in trouble. Now, here's some really bad news, which is something that I want to bring to your attention, but I wanted a true expert, and that's that there's more targeted violence of older people these days. And when you look at this, remember, not too long ago in the US, we as younger people would physically come to defend older people. And now, guess what's happening? This big phenomenon, people are pulling out their cameras and they're videoing rather than step in and help somebody who needs help. I could pick out 1,000 videos, but I want you to watch this one with me. And this happened this week in outside of Atlanta. And oh, by the way, it's not just Atlanta, it's New York, it's LA, it's kind of everywhere. But I want you to ask yourself, if you're an older person, you're at the Kroger grocery store at 10 o'clock in the morning getting your groceries. Would you know what to
Christine,
do?
good afternoon to you. A trip to the Toco Hills Kroger did not go as planned for an 80-year-old man who says he was attacked in the produce department. He left with bumps and bruises, and now he wants his attacker off the streets.
I had a very big bump on my head.
Felix Gessel says the signs of the attack at a DeKalb County Kroger are beginning to heal and fade, but he's still in shock that a random man went after him while shopping for groceries.
I have a hard time going to sleep because I'm reviewing it.
And I cut that off intentionally. There's a lot more, Matt, but I found a couple things interesting. Number one, he wasn't prepared for an attack. He later in the video says that, the guy just swung a soda can and hit him in the head, and it stunned him. But I wanted people to realize that last statement, and that's, I can't get it out of my mind. I go over it again and again. And folks, that's what's called post-traumatic stress syndrome. And the problem with not being prepared for something like this is it's going to cause all kinds of problems, not just during the attack, but after the attack. So, Matt, I wanted to bring you in and just ask you, you train folks all over the country online for how to protect yourself. And would you agree with me that older people better be able to protect themselves these days? And then just give us some ideas about things they should be doing right now.
yeah, absolutely. One of the most upsetting comments that I get from my channel, and then when I talk to people in person, is that they think that unless they're older themselves and they've experienced it, they don't think that older people can defend themselves. And that's simply not true. This gentleman did. You could see in the video that he's in pretty good shape, which means that he's doing one of the most important things that we talk about in self-defense as for a senior, and that is to stay in shape, eat well, do some kind of exercise, whether it's walking during the day. I mean, you could see when they were showing his bruises, his muscle. He has pretty good size arms. So he's, I don't know what job he had, if he had a physical job or if he just takes his fitness seriously. So that's the first thing that I would say, is that we can all get in better shape than we are in now. Some people never got out of great shape. They've lived a lifestyle of being fit. But, for the rest of us, we kind of go up and down, up and down. And if that's true, that's the first thing you can do, is start to get in a little bit better shape. I call it fighting fit, get fighting fit. And nothing, super intense or nothing serious, but walking every day, trying to eat better, drink more water, limit what you put in your body that's not supposed to be there. And, do simple body weight exercises, air squats or squats assisted. Like he's 80 years old, and, there's no reason why. And I have students who are 70, 80, years old. I don't know about, I was going to say 90, but I can't think of any off the top of my head. So I'm not going to lie and say that. But I do know, I have had students in their 80s, and there are a lot of things that we can still do. So that's the first thing, is believe that you can get in shape to defend yourself, right? You can strengthen yourself for self-defense. Number two is, adopting a mindset of the principles of self-defense. So instead of just thinking about techniques like punching, palm strike, elbow, I use a lot of tools. I teach, how to make a fist load so that you hit a lot harder, and that can help you. That can, increase your striking power as an older person, as a younger person too, but especially as an older person, you can pick up some more power and strength just by putting something like this in your hand. But those techniques are not as important as the principles that underlie it. And I think the first one, I was talking to retired law enforcement gentleman this morning, retired cop, and he said the same thing you and I talk about all the time: situational awareness, number one. The video we saw, the older gentleman, he goes into the Kroger. He said he was in the produce section, and he noticed that the man had a can of soda. The next thing he knew, he was smashing him in the face with it. And so, I don't know if it was a completely random attack, or if there were some signals. We know from experience that there are usually signals you can pick up on, and listening to your gut. And a lot of times I think we push that to the side, and we want to be polite. We don't want to do something that makes somebody else feel nervous. But if you're around somebody who doesn't look right, is not acting right, that's part of that situation awareness, being able to move away from that. So those are the things that I teach: situation awareness first, two, learning how to get to a better position. He didn't see the strike coming to his face. He got hit. And that's something we talk about all the time too, because if we can see it, they say run, hide, fight, or, get out of there if you can. And of course we want to do that. But if you get sucker punched like he did, and you get sucker punched, that's the reality. So there's no great defense. There's no kung fu, voodoo, whatever, that's going to stop you from getting smashed in the back of the head or the side of the face, or when you turn around. But when that happened to this gentleman, he fought back. And he could have stopped a more violent attack where he could have been more seriously injured. If that man had smashed him and he, fell back and moved back, and then that emboldened his attacker, and the guy came forward and proceeded to knock him to the ground, and, he could have injured his head hitting the ground. The guy could have stomped on his head, and could have been a lot worse if he hadn't fought back. So knowing how to fight back, and just simple, basic things. Like I said, a loaded fist. These are the pocket sticks that I make for my students. And it's just it's a piece of wood, right? But when you hold it in your hand, you hit a lot harder. This is also a fist load.
Cool.
Yeah, that's a fist load. Your key fob to your car, that's a fist load. All those basic things, the flashlight, I carry one of these everywhere I go. I've got them in all the, got them in the car, I've got them in the house, and that is a simple fist load. But, so it's a strength enhancer, taking what you have and then making you hit a lot harder. So simple things that you can learn, that we can teach you in self-defense. But I think it all starts with, the principles and understanding. One, you don't have to agree with society that might say you are too old to defend yourself.
Right.
That's wrong. Senior citizens have the same rights as everybody else. They have the right for protection. They have the right for defense. And you said at the beginning, we used to live in a society where the other adults, the younger people, would be outraged if someone were to attack an 80-year-old man.
Yeah.
And come to his help. But as you were saying that, you were talking about this increase in violence against senior citizens. And I read a report recently. It says that in certain, and this is actually in parts of Atlanta. And I've been, I worked for a short period of time in the Atlanta area, and I've been in DeKalb, so I'm familiar with the Kroger where that happened. So I'm familiar with that area. And they have, in a lot of these different stores, they adopt like a Tuesday senior day where seniors get discounts, and they have seen an increase in criminals, waiting in the parking lot, going into the store and preying on the seniors because they know they're coming that day. They have cash to buy, they're more likely to buy their groceries with cash, and they're there to take it from them because they know they're going to be there. They see them as a target. And you don't have to be a target. You're not going to turn back the clock and become your 19-year-old self, but that doesn't mean you don't have the ability to defend yourself.
So Matt, let me just ask you. I mean, you train older people all over the country, and I know it starts with situational awareness, as kind of does all of our security. But if you could say, hey, I no matter if you're in a wheelchair, no matter who you are, these are 3 things that you need to be thinking about today, or you need to be preparing today, because you and I know talk is cheap when the fists start flying.
Right.
You've got to be able to do something. What would you say to those people that you're training? You better be able to do this, this, and this.
Very first thing that we talk about is your hands, right? Your hands go up in between me and the threat. Your hands are between the threat and your face and your throat, your skin, all the soft tissue in your body, and they're open. This is the international symbol of stop. So when all those cameras are out, and I read some of the comments in that video that we just looked at, and there are people in that comment saying, well, he must have been part of the problem. He probably instigated it. And there's no reason to attack an 80-year-old man. I don't care who you are and what the situation is. And then the store refused to share the video, so we can't really see what happened. But if it does go to court, this symbol, this sign shows that you were trying to stop it, that you were in the defensive position. He's like this, you're like this. It's a simple difference, right? But it's well defined. You're trying to stop. But your hands being up intercepts whatever he's going to throw. I'm also going to intercept and get into your line of sight. I want to break your patterns. A lot of these criminals are opportunists. So they're looking for these opportunities. They've done it before. That bolds them to do it again and again. And so if you interrupt their line of sight and you break that pattern, you interrupt their pattern, then they have to make a conscious decision. So a lot of things that they're doing, they're just reacting, just like an animal reacts and attacks. But if you actually interrupt his line of sight, that's called pattern interrupt. Now he has to make a conscious decision to continue to press his attack against you. Your hands are also in the way of his punch. He's got to come around it. And then you do something that's called a flinch block. And this comes from Tony Blauer's spear system. Tony Blauer is one of the best self-defense trainers I've ever, I took some of his courses when I was much younger, when he was first emerging. And I've seen a lot of his stuff, and, he gets better and better with age. But the spear system, this idea of a flinch block, you naturally flinch into a position where you're covered. The second thing that I teach you is to put your helmet on. So if your hands are here, especially if he's got a blade or a weapon and he's swinging at you, the worst thing you can do is this, but that's your natural reaction. Your instinct is to recoil. And when you recoil, not only do you open a direct channel to your face, straight in, but you also expose all this soft tissue and the tendons, the ligaments that make the hands work, and then the arteries in there that, could be a fatal strike. So if you instead cover your head, then you're exposing the hard, bony part. There's much less here that if it is cut or it is smashed, you're not going to be as, you're not going to have as severe of an injury. Also, when your hand's here, as you're getting hit in the head, your arms become a shock absorber. And it's a dramatic difference between getting hit in the head just with your hands not there, and what damage that's going to do is it rattles your brain. And if you put your hands here and you absorb that attack, you're going to be far in a much better position. You can also move your body in, striking with the elbow and driving it through the center of his face, which moves him back. And you remember, as a law enforcement officer, when you want to apprehend somebody, you put their head down on the hood of the car or on the ground. If you can control somebody's head, like any animal, you can control their whole body. So by putting your hands here, you're in a direct line straight to his face. You can move forward, you can drive the elbows, and that's the next thing that I would teach. So I would teach better position, hands up and open between you, whether you're in a wheelchair or you're compromised. The only difficulty is if you need a cane. But I teach cane self-defense, and I teach you how to use that cane. And if you needed a cane to walk with so that if you picked it up, you'd fall down, I teach you to carry two, one to lean on and one to get between you and the threat, so that the cane now becomes part of your shield. It also becomes a force accelerator. You can hit much harder with a cane than you can with your hand.
Yeah.
So those three basic things: better position, after situational awareness, of course, which is number one. Better position, put your helmet on, and then it's a question: what do you remove or destroy? And that comes from Tim Larkin's book, When Violence is the Answer. It's the best book I've ever read on self-defense.
Mm-hmm.
And because it breaks it down to practice, it gets you away from the techniques: palm strike, punch, elbow, kick, knee, grappling, jiu-jitsu, taekwondo. That doesn't matter. What matters are the principles.
Yeah.
Situational awareness, better position, and then what can I remove or destroy? His ability to see, breathe temporarily, permanently. If he does pull out that weapon, he's trying to take your life, then you have to use violence to stop the violence he's using against you. Maybe it's his knees, you take his knees out, whatever it is. Once you ask yourself the question, the answer clarifies, and you acquire the target. Okay, you're going to little strike. Your hands are here, you're moving forward, he's moving back, you're pushing that elbow to strike his jaw or maybe his temple. If you turn off his operating system and you knock him out, he can't continue to fight you. It's as simple as that. You knock him to the ground, and then the cops come and pick him up. And then they're not looking for the guy who's been assaulting people again and again and again. You were the one who were able to stop him. So this is the first three things that we would practice. And then we practice again and again. And it's not like in the old days where we put on the big red suit with the face cage, and then we go through fighting scenarios. We call that the red man. Now we slow it down and we practice striking the right target, asking the question, taking the breath, getting the better position, visualizing how we do that. And that's more appropriate for someone who's not as big. So we teach that women's self-defense, kids self-defense, and then senior citizen self-defense, where we've lost some of our speed, our strength, our power. Instead of relying on being a better boxer and winning the match, being a better grappler and winning the match, now we're using violence against violence. If I remove he smashed his nose and his eyes are watering, the snot's coming out, and he's choking on his breath, that's going to slow him down. But that's an act of violence, right? But he's trying to take from you your life, your dignity, your freedom. He's trying to hurt your wife, your child, your grandchildren. Then you have the right. God gave us the right for self-defense. And so we shift to those principles instead of worrying about the techniques. And once you do that, then, we were born kicking and screaming. We came out of our mother's womb knowing how to hit and kick. Anybody who's ever had children know that, right? Before they ever took a karate class or anything like that, they beat up on their little brother and sister. So we've known how to do that from birth. So you don't have to actually learn those techniques. You have to learn the principles, and then those techniques are already there. And then as a senior citizen, depending on, building that confidence, that's when we bring in, other tools. And I know you have some courses coming up for home defense too. And things like that.
I think what I would want our people to know, because that's a lot of information, and it's probably phase one intro to your classes.
Yeah.
But it's not too complex for anybody, because you went into a lot of different things there. But let's just refocus, bring it back to putting your hands up again. That's what we trained in the Secret Service. Put your hands up. Sir, please coordinate your words. Stop what you're doing. Why? Because when this is filmed, they're going to say he was begging. She was begging for no confrontation. And then the helmet. The helmet cannot be overstressed. So hands up, helmet, and then strike. Three very simple things that if you practice from your chair, you can practice. And I think it starts with it. I really want everybody to understand this, especially on my channel who hasn't heard you before. These are things that require you to, number one, determine you're not going to be a victim. You're going to be a victor. And then number two, you're going to develop skills. Any of us can talk about being Olympic athletes. It's those that get up at 1 a.m. and train every day for years on end that actually become Olympic athletes. And so I really do appreciate, and I hope that this spurs you. Let me tell you why this is so important. I don't know if you watch the news, but 3 Dallas police officers were ambushed. One was a Dallas police officer who joined, I think, in his 40s, strong Christian man, decided he wanted to give back to his community, was sitting in his patrol car when he was ambushed and killed. 2 other officers responded. They got into a gunfight. Suspects killed, but they're in critical condition. Folks, I want you to understand something. Listen to me carefully. The police may not be there for you with the direction that our politicians are taking us. I want you to understand this, because right now it's easy to watch it on social media or on the news and go, oh, I feel so sorry for that 80-year-old man. Guess what? If we don't have law and order, that 80-year-old man could be you. But more importantly, it could be you with your grandkids. It could be you. So am I stoking fear? I'm encouraging you to get serious. You're going to notice a distinct change in my channel, because guess what? Playing the current game of, well, it's just not, it's like with Kroger. How dare you not release the video of this 80-year-old man? How dare you? And for those of you commenting, well, he probably deserved it. Really? Does your grandfather deserve to be attacked? Does an innocent person that's elderly and can't defend themselves, do they deserve to be attacked? The short answer is absolutely not. And guess what? It's up to you and I. I like what my good friend Chuck Holton said. I'm going to steal it. I told him I'm going to steal it. Every place you go should be safer because you're there. You're going to be surrounded by people who have no clue what to do. They're scared. They're afraid. They think filming and getting social media hits is more important than coming to the aid of people. But America, folks, is changing. It's changing drastically. You probably heard me on national media talking about what happened with President Trump and the assassination. And guess what? I'm not on the Christmas card list of a lot of guys I used to work with, because I'm telling the truth. The Secret Service failed its mission that day. One of our protectees was shot in the head and almost killed. And another innocent man, simply there to exercise his freedom to listen to a president campaign, was killed, and 2 other innocent people were wounded. So folks, our nation's changing, and I hope this is a call. And I appreciate you, Matt, for what you're doing. I think it's critical. Listen to me, folks. Every man and woman that's listening to me begins to say, no, you're right. Time for talk's over. It's cheap. I'm going to stand. I'm going to stand for what's right. And you probably, if you saw my last video, we had Venezuelan gangs walk unobstructed right into our country. Now they're taking over apartment complexes in the Aurora, Colorado area. There's video out. If you don't believe me, check it out for yourself. So the question is, what happens when they leave that apartment complex and come to your nice neighborhoods? What are you going to do then? And folks, if we don't start getting truth tellers that begin to warn us, hey, this is a Cat 6 storm. It's not a Cat 5 hurricane. It's a Cat 6. Because there are a lot of folks that used to be over there that are right here now. And like Matt said, they're targeting the elderly. They're targeting innocent people, women and children. I did a video not too long ago, a mom going to the grocery store, had her child killed by a mentally ill, evil person. And guess what we get now? We get, well, mental illness is ... And I'm the first one to be sympathetic to mentally ill people. But at the end of the day, if they're violent and killing innocent children, we got to call right and wrong. and we got to do what we need to do. So, Matt, I'm sorry I went on a little rant there, but
No, that's so important because two things. One, we always celebrated the greatest generation, the men who fought in World War II, and they're all the ones who are still with us are in their hundreds, right? I mean, literally, they're
yeah, that's right.
100 years old plus. And we lament the fact that they're gone and they're not here with us to, protect us and help us. But that doesn't mean that we can't, as the older generations, step up and stand up, speak up, and become that greatest
That's right.
generation. And it might look different. We might not be storming the beaches of Normandy or raising the flag on Iwo Jima. It might be that we need to simply stand up, speak up when we see something that's wrong, when we see, that horrible, situation that, baby was murdered by that mentally ill woman that you just talked about. Those things that are happening in and around us. Not only if we're there, we can do something about it. Like you said, being prepared to be that person, who makes it safer because you're there, but also bringing your voice back, calling your politicians and demanding that they take some action, because none of us do that anymore. We're waiting for someone else to do it. And, maybe that's the call, is that we do something like that. But,
let me be clear too. I was raised by that World War II veteran.
Yeah.
I was born when he was 42. Now,
Wow.
let me tell you something. You think he would have sat by for a New York second and watched evil just do what evil does? He would have risen up and he would have said, some things are just worth standing for. And my dad used to say all the time, if you're not strong enough to stand for freedom, then be weak enough to be controlled by others. Yeah. And when you think about that, that's where we are. And guess what? Every American listening to this, I know your audience are great people, good people. I like to think mine are as well. They're very committed to doing what's right, but they've never had to stand for what's right physically. They prayed, they've done things, they've supported the police, but now's the time to be prepared, just like this 80-year-old man. And so I appreciate you, brother. I appreciate all you do. I hope this is helpful to my folks, your folks. We'll get it out on video.
Yeah. And speaking of that, I want to just throw this in and mention, because this is a phenomena that we're not just seeing here in this country, we're seeing it all over the West.
Right.
And a lot of your and my followers are in Great Britain, in Australia, in France, in Germany, and they're all feeling the exact same way. So it's, it's not an American thing. It's a Western thing. And we're all being hamstrung. We're all being led astray, where the politicians are allowing certain things to happen, where, and it's coming from multiple places. It's not just one.
That's such a good point, Matt. This is a wave of evil unlike anything we've seen in our lifetime. And here's what I'm going to say to everybody as we're leaving out the door. First off, if you want hands-on training, Matt, how do they get in contact with you?
I have the channel here. It's my last name, just Pasquinelli, and they can find me and reach out. In my description or on my channel, got multiple ways to reach out to me, and I'm always open for somebody.
For my folks, if you want weapons training and tactics training by some of the best, literally full-time instructors that train agents, they're going to come to Florida. They're doing some stuff for me in October and November. And you can get that if you just Google Lionheart International Services Group. You'll get to our website. Check out the events. Again, Lionheart International Services Group. Because if you sign up for those classes, let me promise you, number one, I'm a firearms instructor and was trained by the Secret Service. These guys are way better than I was, because all they do is train people. We also train medical. We also train scenario-based training, where you're in a virtual situation and you have to deal with the confrontation, just like we played to you before. But now is the time. Now is the time to prepare. I am concerned about what we're going to see after and during the November elections. I will tell you that. I think we're seeing things we've never seen before. We've let a whole lot of people into this country who have one objective, and that's to kill us. And the bottom line is, that's not going to just be a time frame where people, oh, that's great, this guy got in or the other guy got in. both or gal, whatever. But so we definitely need to be vigilant and prayerful, but be prepared, folks, whatever you do. And again, do me a favor, like, share, subscribe. If you're on Matt's channel, jump over to mine. If you're on mine, jump over to Matt's. It's just really important. I cannot stress enough. We've got to stand together, America. We have to, and not just America, like you said. If you believe in protecting people's rights, protecting the innocent, making sure that the government is not squeezing us to the point we don't have our rights, then you got to stand. And if you don't stand, then you got to live with what happens. And like I always say, there's a battle on the field. There's a field right in front of you. And good and evil is battling it out. You got to pick a jersey. Which jersey are you going to wear when you go out on the field? Because we're all on the field, whether we want to be or not. So,
Sure.
Matt, thank you, brother. I appreciate you. For those have jumped in here, thank you. And I'm looking forward to connecting soon. I've got a lot of other stuff. Matt and I are going to do some stuff. But in the meantime, please pray, prepare, and at the end of the day, don't let fear rule your life. What we're trying to do is not get you fearful, it's get prepared. So God bless you, stay safe, and we'll see you next time.
Awesome. Thank you.